Ahoy, and welcome to another edition of Unbiased Gear Reviews. Today, I am going to tell you about the Jackson Chris Broderick Pro 6. So firstly, some specifications, and also some caveats about this particular instrument. We have a maple neck that is going through a mahogany body. We have a rosewood fingerboard with 24 nickel frets. We have Dimarzio CB 6 pickups. The CB standing for, Chris Broderick, that's right. For those of you that don't know, Mr. Chris Broderick is the former guitar player of Megadeth, and before that, Panzer, and also Nevermore. Currently, he's the guitar player for Act of Defiance. These Dimarzio pickups are also his own signature models, and we will go more in depth with them and how they sound a little bit later. In addition to that, further specs that this instrument has, we have a 3-way toggle switch selecting between the pickups. We also have a master volume and a master tone, both with push-pull coil tap options, as well as a nifty little kill switch. Now, this particular instrument, previous owners have modified it slightly. Modified it / upgrading it, depending on what you think. I think one of them is an upgrade. I think one of them is dog shit. The upgrades are as follows. We have Autotrim locking tuners from Planet Waves. And we have a Gotoh licensed double-locking bridge, replacing the previous Floyd Rose Special bridge. We will go more in depth on that later. So let's talk playability, guys. We have an awesome little 6-string beast right here. I have honestly really liked these things since the first one that I played at NAMM a few years back. I thought that they had a really nice neck profile, very similar to what you would find on like an Aristides, for example. It's a C shape, it's not too thick, it's not too thin. In fact, actually it's not really thick at all, but it's still not too thin. Very comfortable, fits very nicely in the hand. And after I gave this thing a setup and a little tweakage up here and a little tweakage down here, it plays absolutely phenomenal. It's just very inspiring to play on it. You heard the song that I played earlier. Having this guitar set up the way it is with the features that it's got on it, it brings out a little bit of my inner Victor Smolsky. There's not a whole lot of inner Victor Smolsky there. That dude is an absolute badass. I wish I could play half as good at him. But wait a minute, I'm getting off the point. One of the other things that's contributing to the joy that I feel from this instrument as well is the fact that I'm not going to complain about the fret ends. The fretwork is honestly really, really good. Even with having super low action on this thing right now, there's no dead frets anywhere up and down the neck. And in addition to that, we have some beautiful fretwork on the side there. Rounded fret ends. That is something that you typically see on a more expensive instrument. That is super, super cool. And it really just feels nicely when you're going up and down the neck to not have those frets digging into you so much. I'm sure that the fact that the fretboard is bound has something to do with that as well, but overall it just makes for a nice smooth playing surface right here. The only thing that's really sticking out a little bit is the Floyd nut that's on this, which I don't know if it's the original locking nut that was on it, or if it's the locking nut that came with the bridge system that the previous owner put on it. Either way, it's a little uncomfy. Aesthetically, I've always kind of dug this body shape a little bit. I love how it's a soloist style, but it's offset. Offset guitars just really do something for me. I like more modern offset designs like this that just look so sleek, and it looks like it's made to go fast. This is the Ricky Bobby of guitars right here. It wants to go fast. In addition to that, my favorite Jackson headstock of all time, I love the 3x3 headstock. I think this thing looks super badass. And it adds that perfect aesthetic touch to the rest of the guitar. This particular guitar has a gloss white finish on it. From what I understand, moving forward, they are going to be strictly matte finished. So this one is, I think, last year's model. It's kind of a shame because this is actually a rather nicely done gloss finish. The only thing that sucks about it is that it is such a thick finish that it kind of kills off the resonance a bit. Yeah, shut up and play, dude. How does the thing sound? Well, let me tell you. For those of you that don't know about Chris Broderick, before he switched over to Dimarzio pickups when he joined Megadeth, he was a Seymour Duncan guy. And the pickups that he used to use back when he was in Jag Panzer were a Seymour Duncan JB in the bridge and a Seymour Duncan Jazz in the neck. So he really liked kind of a more modern vintage tone coming out of the neck, and also kind of a hot-rodded vintage tone coming out of the bridge. You can definitely tell that still influences the sounds that he was going for out of these signature pickups. The bridge pickup, you definitely get that tone that's just perfect for like thrash, power metal, that sort of stuff. It's very much in the same wheelhouse as a Seymour Duncan JB or a Custom 5 or even a Duncan Custom. It just kind of vintage, kind of hot-rodded, really, really cool all around. But don't let the fact that I said that it's got vintage tonal characteristics fool you. This thing still shreds on some modern metal stuff. In addition to that, the coil tap that's on the bridge pickup sounds really, really cool, and you can definitely kind of nail those awesome single coil tones that you hear on like the old Halloween and Malmsteen records. Pretty awesome. As far as the neck pickup goes, while I absolutely love the bridge pickup, the neck pickup just leaves a little bit to be desired, mostly in terms of output. If it was just a touch louder, a touch hotter, it would be so much better because there's just such a volume drop off from the bridge to the neck. I mean, even when you're playing leads, you can't really switch between the two pickups so much or you'll get that. It's not bad, and as you can hear, the tone is really enjoyable. You definitely get those kind of characteristics that a lot of the awesome Dimarzio neck humbuckers have, that sort of airiness about them, where there's just like a sort of space that tone occupies. It's really, really cool. Just needs a little bit more oomph in terms of the volume. Now, where I do have a little bit of an issue with is the choice on this particular one from the previous owner to replace the bridge system. First of all, because this is supposed to be a review of the guitar, let me talk to you about why I actually like the Floyd Rose Special. It's a real Floyd Rose. And if you set it up properly and if you maintain it like you're supposed to, it does behave like most Floyd Rose systems do. It is very responsive, it holds its tuning, and yeah, it doesn't have some of the really nice, more finely machined metal that some of the European-made versions have, but it's still a badass Floyd Rose system. To replace it with a Gotoh bridge, like when I think of Gotoh, I think of like going into some mom and pop music store and like, here's $60, do you have a double-locking Floyd Rose tremolo system? Well, we've got this, we've got this no-name brand that you can throw on your guitar. Okay, I'll take that. That's what I think of when I think of a Gotoh system. I've read up on it, and a lot of people seem to really, really like it, so hey, more power to you if that floats your boat. I will say this, I think it's nice and responsive. Like, it handles the flutters really, really nicely, and it does snap back into tune when you really bang around on it. So yeah, not bad as far as a tuning stability standpoint goes. It's pretty decent. What I don't really care for, though, are just a few things like, first of all, the bar sits super high up, and try as I might to make any sort of adjustments to it, I can't get that sucker to sink any lower, no matter what I do. And it's just kind of a hindrance. Like, the bar sits high enough that I'm just kind of running into it all the time. I also don't like the fact that the bar can't like swing freely on this thing. You lock it down using an Allen screw here, and it's just fucking there. It won't swing freely. It won't swing out of the way. I know some guys don't really care for that. I do. When I'm done using the bar, I want it to be down here out of the way so that I don't have to worry about it. The other thing I don't really care for is the tightness of the fine tuners. Like, to a certain extent, it feels like you're kind of struggling with it a little bit. Like, it doesn't have as much give. I think that it's just kind of a design flaw that makes it so that this thing, it's just a little bit of a bitch to tune. It really is. Speaking of tuning, one of the things I think was a great choice for an upgrade, because from what I understand, this thing originally either had kind of a no-name Jackson tuner or Grovers. I like Grovers, but this is my first experience with the Planet Waves Autotrim tuners, and they're pretty fucking cool. They're very responsive. I like the slimmer tuning knob that's on here that just tends to be a little bit more comfortable to turn. And I like the fact that you lock this thing down, you tighten it up, and then once it gets to a certain tension when pulling the strings tight, it just automatically cuts off that excess to make things look just so nice and clean on the headstock there. I really dig that. I really dig that a lot. So my final thoughts on this guitar are that I think it's a winner. I think that it's an incredible value considering how much these things cost. Typically, you'll find a street price on this model for about $899. And despite the fact that it's made overseas, it's got some really nice appointments and some really nice attention to QC. Myself, I haven't actually owned a Jackson in a long time, so it's just kind of nice to see something a little bit refreshing coming from one of the big metal guys, that you can see attention to detail in the fretwork, in the finish work, in the finer components that they include in. Is it a perfect guitar for the price point? No, there's definitely some things I would rather have. I'd rather spend extra money and have stainless steel frets. I'd rather spend extra money for a little bit nicer bridge, even before the Gotoh that was put in. But that's just personal preferences. For $900, this is a really, really excellent value. And I would definitely recommend checking one out. It's kind of crazy to me. I see this thing pop up on eBay and Reverb all the time for dirt cheap. Like, you'll find ones that are in practically pristine shape for like $600, $650. To me, that's an absolute steal. Would highly recommend you pick one up. Would highly recommend you check one out. So before we go this time, let me tell you about what I'm drinking. This is called Pinot Suave from Deschutes Brewery. This is a Belgian-style ale with Pinot Noir grapes aged in French oak barrels, or at least that's what the label says. If I remember right, it is 11.2 ABV. Let me see, 11.8 ABV. And this particular one was bottled in April of last year. Comes with a nice wax cap around the cap of the bottle, and it has a very, very nice kind of dark amber look to it, a little reddish, probably from the grapes. It definitely has a grape smell to it, and you can definitely, when you're tasting it, taste the wine, as well as the woodiness of the barrels that it's aged in. It's got just a slight kick that's kind of hinting at traces of like more stronger alcohol, like scotch or whiskey of other types. But there's definitely some notes in there of like the grapes, of course, and plums, and like blackberry. I definitely taste the blackberry a little bit. But yeah, very, very good, extremely rich, and extremely complex. Would definitely recommend this. So thank you so much for tuning in. If you've got any more questions, comments, concerns, leave them in the comment section below. If you like what I'm doing, please subscribe. There's a lot more review videos on the way. There's a lot more of other videos on the way. But thank you so much, and we'll see you in the next video. Habooski!